So, in the lead up to this update, there's not been many leaks. There were some leaks for Assemble Battle Pass and PvP game mode 2 weeks ago. However, many people, including myself, assumed that this wasn't going to come out this week, given the fact that in the lead up to this week, there's not been that many leaks posted by the developers. And we got an answer, because yes, in this update, they call it the first time user update. I assume this is all updates referring to if you are a first time player to Tower Defense Simulator. They've updated that rather than updating anything that any experienced players would notice, aka they haven't added a new tower to like hardcore mode, they haven't updated hardcore mode, and they haven't updated stuff like Fallen mode. And in fact, me and Mented were discussing this previously, and we were discussing what it could be, and we were speculating on how big this update was going to be. I thought it was going to be a general update, and it turns out it's even smaller than that. The only things that have changed are some UI elements and some stuff. However, I can confirm that the developers are going to make a 4th of July skin next week, likely when the 4th of July update is going to be. The 4th of July this year is on a Friday, so that's a Friday update for you guys, because I know some people still want Friday updates. There you go. And you know when I speculated on the 4th of July update? Yeah, very cool indeed. Anyways, in this update, they've added new polished visuals for the ready button. You can see who's voted for starting the game, and you can also unready if you change your mind. The developers have also added new visual elements to the choose your game mode, only for the survival game mode. So for example here, you can see hardcore mode. When you hover over it, you can see Void Reaver, 100 to 150 gems, 300 EXP to 334 EXP, and 40 minutes approximately. So they now have an approximate time for how long it will take, and they've probably said around 40 minutes for hardcore mode. 100 to 150 gems, interesting. This is interesting because the rewards for hardcore mode is 100 gems plus 150 if you triumph, times 1.2 because of the modifiers. In hardcore mode, all matches have the HP locked modifier, which increases rewards by 20%. Now, I don't think it's meant to do this because it's not really stated that it increases by 20%, but ever since it was added, it increases by 20%. Well, after it was added, like 3 weeks after it was added, it increased the rewards that you got at the end of the game mode, and it just so happens that hardcore mode caps the base health to 100, which you can't boost anymore because skills has been disabled in hardcore mode. But interestingly, developers did remove the description, which included this plus 20% reward increase, but they didn't actually remove the reward increase at all from any maps, not just hardcore mode. Again, I think developers just forgot that their modifier existed, but even in that case, the rewards for hardcore mode still don't really stack up because it's 250 even without the HP locks modifier. I don't know what the developers are thinking. So nominally, most people are looking at about 300 gems and not the 100 to 150. Nobody is getting 100 to 150 gems unless they're halving it for some reason. Except I don't think they are, because if you go to easy mode and you hover over this, it's 50 XP, 250 coins, 300 coins. This, I mean, again, this is actually the triumph reward for easy mode, 300 coins and 50 EXP, except obviously mine's boosted, so I don't get 50 XP, I get double that because of my VIP Plus subscription, plus the fact that it's a Friday. No, it's not a Friday right now as I speak, but when it's a Friday, yeah, this will be outdated. That is, unless the developers nerfed the gem reward, which I don't think they have, and for some reason, why are the rewards like this? The times are relatively accurate, I must say. So 11 minutes for easy mode, 16 minutes for casual mode, 18 minutes for intermediate, 20 minutes for molten, and about 18 minutes for fallen. So developers are admitting that fallen mode is now quicker than molten mode. So if you're grinding out stuff, fallen mode definitely better than molten mode, and probably would recommend fallen mode. So in that case, I would probably recommend, or would probably tell the developers, just reduce the time taken when you're playing molten and intermediate modes, given the fact that fallen mode is now quicker. I'm sure that's going to happen anytime soon. The rewards as well. Here, for some reason, it's the reward for EXP is distributed differently for some reason. So why is casual mode between 75 and 90, but then intermediate mode is a firm 120, easy is a firm 50, but then molten is between 135 and 185, and fallen is between 200 and 250. I assume, what I have to assume, is what the developers are doing is they're assuming, like, 80% of players will get this amount of coins, or about the majority of players. Let's say the majority of players, 60% of the player base will get these rewards based on our internal testing. So here we can clearly see, well, I assume it's the case, because otherwise it wouldn't make any sense, because these things make no sense at all, because The Triumph rewards are shown here correctly. Yes, 300 coins, 50 EXP. I assume in easy mode it's 250 coins if you lose on easy mode, and that is indeed the case. But then if you go to casual mode, it's 450 coins and 90 EXP. So why have they got the lower end of 75 here? It's the same for intermediate mode. Why isn't it shown here? Why isn't the range shown here? Is it the case where most people playing intermediate mode will actually triumph or reach the last game or last wave? Because I do believe on the last wave you don't get... Okay, you do actually get a triumph reward for EXP, which is weird because they don't show it for the intermediate... it's all weird. And interestingly, it's even weirder for special game modes. So you can see here, 600 coins to 829 coins. They ignore modifiers. They don't allow modifiers to take place onto this showing up here. And it seems like the developers just forgot that the modifiers existed. I mean, yes, the rewards for hardcore mode and, say, survival modes, they're also kind of inaccurate if you're playing an all-pass modifier map because this is boosted by 10%. So, for example, if you try out Fallen mode on, say, Mason Arch, you don't get 1,000 coins, you get 1,100 coins. And for me, because my coins are also boosted by 20% because of my VIP Plus subscription, this is also further inaccurate. I should get 1,300 coins for triumphing Mason Arch. But the special game modes, they're just weird. 21 minutes for Gunslinger, seems about reasonable. 23 minutes for Nuclear Monster, I'd say 25 more. And then Pizza Party, about 22 minutes. So you could probably do that in about 18, 19. And Sandbox mode obviously doesn't have a timer because, you know, Sandbox mode, yeah, you can spend as much time as you want on it. Now, apparently, the developers have updated the skill tree music. And that is the original Matchmaking Elevator music that developers used, well, or plan to use for Matchmaking Elevator back in the day for PvP mode. Well, not just for PvP mode, for matchmaking as well. This is the Tower Defense Simulator OST Matchmaking Elevator that I uploaded. Normally, developers don't really use outdated assets like this, but for this circumstance, they have. Okay, so the changes that they say they made to Ready do not apply to the matchmaking or the intermission lobby. It doesn't really change here. It's only, I assume, when you start the game. So here, you can see that I need to press ready, or Menton needs to press ready, except only one of us needs to press ready, not two of us. That's weird. Yeah, so as mentioned, Menton mentions, the player count bug is there, so it shows 1 out of 2. It's the case where only one of the players needs to actually start the game before the game actually starts. It should be 2 players, and as you saw, Menton's icon was there, my player icon, and Menton's player icon was also there. So it's indeed the case where they've updated the ready icon, which out of everything in Tower Defense Simulator, they've updated. And they've also updated the UI to show the amount of waves that there are in the game mode, which, I mean, in hardcore mode, it kind of ruins the surprise of the commander dialogue. And they haven't updated the skip wave icons to show if your icon is there. So it's really just for the ready icon, but you can also unready, which is a new development in Tower Defense Simulator. Who could have saw that coming? Like, that revolutionary change. And yes, the skip vote is still bugged. You still only require 1 less than the total amount of players in your server to actually skip, even though it looks like it says, well, it says 2 out of 2, or 0 out of 2 players have skipped, so 0 out of 2 required. You require, it's assumed to require 2, whereas it's the case where it's only 1 that's actually required, where that's a bug. Next, another thing that the developers have done is they've locked skills to be level 15 plus only. So before that, you can't actually use skills. Now, I wonder what happens if you've bought a skill before this update and you're like level 10 or something. Would you still get to keep that skill? That would be a very interesting question. There have also been further changes to Fallen mode. There'll be a separate video for that. And there's been a lot of tower price reductions, at least in coins, because there was an inflation in price, I believe, around the Frost Invasion, not the Frost Invasion, around the Hexscape event when a lot of prices for towers increased. But here, they've actually now decreased. So, the Ace Pilot, its cost has decreased from 3,500 coins to 1,500 coins. The Farm has decreased from 2,500 coins to 2,000 coins to buy. The Freezer decreased from 1,600 to 500, which is insanely good, I must say. But then if you look at the Hunter, it's a starter tower going from 300 coins to 200 coins. The Medic, 1,500 coins to 800 coins. The Militant going from 1,500 coins to 650 coins. The Pyromancer going from 3,500 coins to 1,250 coins. So that's insanely good for the Pyromancer. The Shotgunner, interestingly, has gone from 2,500 coins to 1,000. So yes, better cheaper, actually, than the Pyromancer. Interesting. And the Soldier's gone from 400 coins to 350 coins. So they've reduced, I guess, the gap between the starter towers, which used to be very cheap, to the intermediate towers, when there was a noticeable increase to like 2,000, 3,000 coins for some of these towers. Interesting, though, they've not changed the trapper price, the military-based price, or any of the advanced tower prices. There have also been changes to tutorial mode, but I need to check these out before actually making a video on it. But yes, this is an extremely small update, and if you just look at it on the surface, it looks like the developers are just promoting a user interface, an updated user interface. But no, they've updated it so earlier on, the progression through the game is a lot quicker than it used to be, especially when it comes to tower coin prices and when it comes to tutorial mode. But other than that, yeah, it's a pretty small update, I can't lie.